All right, guys. Hey, thanks for coming back. Bob Piercy here, and we have Chris Nicholson again. So we had Chris on a few weeks ago, a month ago, talking about Reveal clear aligners with Henry Schein. Chris is the Henry Schein Reveal specialist in Canada. Hey, Chris, thanks a lot for being here. Happy to do this again.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bob. I appreciate you giving me some more time with your clients, and we got a lot of good feedback so far from the first video, and I know we kind of just started, very high level, with Reveal, and I thought it was a great idea to go a little bit more into the weeds, into some of the stuff that questions we've been getting personally. So, no, thank you again for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. And hey, we'll definitely get into it. Now, last time we spoke, actually, it was more in the summertime. You were looking at buying a house. Did you buy that house?
It's still a work in progress. Yeah, it's I don't know what the real estate market is like over in Alberta right now, but it's in certain spots outside of the GTA, in the Toronto area, they're going a little bit crazy because I do think a lot of people are looking at this, work from home environment, maybe wanting some more space. So the area I'm looking is kind of going a little bit crazy. And now there's no listing. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern, but the plan is still to get that finished up before the end of the year. But quick question for you. I'm looking at my window right now, and the snow's falling here. So I'm not sure how winter started up where you are so far.
Oh, see, and I thought you were actually going to be making me feel bad by bragging about your Ontario weather.
Oh, no.
It's last week was cold. We had multiple degrees below freezing. Just a couple skiffs of snow, nothing serious. But it definitely it's settling. And this next week, actually, before Halloween, is supposed to be nice. But hey, man, we all know snow is coming. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming for sure. So no, but no, yeah, no, I appreciate you asking about the house thing. And like I said, I'm hopeful in the next couple months we'll get that all squared away for sure.
Well, good luck. So yeah, after this last conversation, the first conversation we had to Reveal, I got a lot of great feedback too. People were asking about it, had a lot of conversations. That introductory conversation about Reveal, and people were very interested. They definitely liked the idea of a clearer reliner, a more invisible aligner. They also liked the pictures, the contrast showing how stain resistant it was, resistant to staining. But the first question almost every single office asked me about, and they were just questioning and concerned about, was the no buttons. Everything that they seem to know to this point really is suggesting that buttons were a vital part of making a clear aligner system work. And they wanted to know how Reveal could do the scope of work it talks about doing, again, without any buttons.
For sure. No, and that's a fair question. And again, like you mentioned, I look after Reveal for all of Canada. And that's usually the first question we get as well, especially if it's an office who has experience with aligners. So definitely a conversation. I actually prepared, similar to last time, a small presentation I'll get into in a second. Just, again, images. I'm a visual guy. We talked about this last time. So definitely we'll go into that. And one of the things I wanted to ask you on that topic is when you think of traditional ortho, right, when you think of brackets and wires, what's doing most of the movement? Is it the brackets or is it the wire?
Oh, wow. You're going to make me look bad as a dental rep if I get this wrong. What's doing the most of the work, the bracket or the wire? Well, I think the wire would be obviously doing the pulling, but then it's all being torqued and the leverage is against the bracket is just kind of how I'm visualizing it. So you really started to nod your head when I said wire earlier. So I'm going to go with wire as my final answer.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
No, that would be the one. So again, they're both involved, right? But at the end of the day, the wire is doing a lot of that heavy lifting, right? So that's the analogy I like to use, especially with clinicians who have a lot of ortho experience, have done traditional brackets, and have treated aligner, and that does tend to resonate with them. Because when you think of the aligners, right? And again, we'll go into this in a second, but a lot of the attachments out there are really used for retention because the fit of the aligner isn't as snug as what we're providing. So they need those to kind of anchor on the teeth to give them the leverage to move those teeth. So are they doing some of the movements? Absolutely. I'm not saying that they're not doing anything, but a lot of the movement is actually being provided by just the plastic. So the way I kind of compare it is If you could put a wire right on the tooth, you didn't need the brackets on there at all, it could still do some stuff and some movement, but obviously you need both in traditional ortho. So similar concept here. There are some nuances. We'll get into that in a second, but yeah, fair point. So what I'm thinking is I'll share my screen here. And what I thought we would do before we go into that, again, me being a very visual learner, we have a short, it's about a 2-minute video, and I'm hoping you can hear it okay. I'm going to play it as part of my presentation here, and it does a really good job showing some of those differences, and then we can kind of expand on that a little bit more if that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay. If you can see my screen okay, just let me know.
Yep.
Okay. So before I touch on that video, and again, it was a great segue, here at the beginning, I thought we could talk about 2 different things, obviously, than what we spoke about last time. So the clarity, as you mentioned, was something we touched on, and then the simple case submission portal were the 2 things we kind of went into more detail on our previous call. So first thing today, the no buttons, no attachments, we'll definitely spend a good chunk of our time there. And then the last one, and I really wanted to say, in my opinion, the most impactful, the best for last, and it's the practice growth component. And I really think now more than ever, with the struggles everybody has had over the last 8 months or whatever with the pandemic, would I rephrase this a little bit? Maybe practice growth, practice recovery, revenue recovery, different revenue streams. I think they all kind of tie hand in hand. And I just want to share some stories, with your customers about some of the success we've had and some of the cool different things we've put together to try to help our practices bring some new revenue or expand their revenue after obviously some of the shutdowns with the pandemic. So to start us off here, I'm just going to play this quick video here. And like I said, I hope you can hear it okay.
Let's take a closer look at Reveal Clear Aligner's manufacturing process. First, the general practice dentist office takes a physical impression or intraoral scan of the patient's teeth and uploads the scans and photos to the Reveal Clear Aligner portal. Our highly trained technicians review the patient records and begin the process of producing a customized treatment setup. The doctor will now be able to review, make modifications as desired, and approve the treatment setup via our fast and easy-to-use case submission portal. Then, once approved, the Reveal Clear Aligner manufacturing process begins. Other manufacturers produce 3D printed models for every stage and every aligner, a time-consuming process that, over time, creates hundreds of millions of plastic polymer models that end up in our landfills. Our production process is very different. We begin by creating just one precision mold of the patient's teeth, and without any 3D printing. The teeth are physically moved from their starting points to the doctor's prescribed positions. Our proprietary material is thermoformed to produce the Reveal Clear Aligners using a process that captures even the most minute details of the patient's teeth and soft tissue. We then trim the aligners at their optimized heights to capture both the hard and the soft tissue anatomy, thus providing the maximum grip onto each tooth. Reveal provides precision force levels for comfort and speed of treatment. This entire process is designed for exceptional aligner fit and predictable tooth movements. Once the aligners are trimmed, they are hand finished, providing silky smooth edges for maximum patient comfort. Laser marking, where we mark each Reveal Clear aligner to identify it. Quality control, the aligners are checked for perfect quality. Then each aligner is put through a cleaning process. And finally, the packing stage.
Okay. So I'm just going to stop it there. Again, it was just going to show we put it in a box, we ship it out and send it to the practice. So any questions on that, Bob, just before I jump back in?
Well, one thing you said actually that made sense to me was, and you kind of mentioned it earlier based on the manufacturing process, how, and you can see it in this image you have right there on the left for the leading competitor. You can see those transition marks or transfer marks where the 3D printed model is then, transferred as a vacuum form. And as I see it, with every single of those lines, you actually have like a micro gap where the aligner isn't actually touching the tooth. And then, which, isn't a lot, but over the course of the entire tooth, that probably results in, more or less grab on the tooth.
For sure. So that's a great point. And actually, it's interesting. Last week, I was on a training call with our team down in the U.S. With Henry Schein Orthodontics. And we have an orthodontist who we work very closely with down in the States. Well, we work with a few, but one specifically on the education of our team. And also another team member who used to work in a busy dental practice and, was talking a lot about the treatment planning. And one thing we talked about last week in training, which was a bit of an aha moment for me, I had two big takeaways, but the one specific to the attachments is we get a lot more of an intimate fit because we're using that one specific mold. So if you were to look at that mold just from the video that we just showed, and you were to take a 3D printed model, question for you, would you be able to floss a 3D printed model? Would you be able to capture the interproximal details of that aligner or of that patient? Sorry.
I'm guessing you could not.
Correct. You could not. Where with the mold that we're putting together, again, because we're taking that interproximal, we're doing that in the real physical world, we could floss that mold if we wanted to. So we're capturing a lot more of the interproximal properties of the tooth. We have the higher trim line, as you, again, I know you were talking about the striations, but the other big thing is this higher trim line. So in our aligners here on the right, that's some more surface area that we're covering. So it gives us some better grip, gives us some more force or leverage, again, depending if you're tipping or torquing or rotating a tooth. Compared to the scallop edges, again, it's not, capturing as much of the full picture, the full anatomy, however you want to discuss it. So the one big thing, and like I said at the beginning, we could be here for an hour and a half talking about attachments. And really this comes down to what the doctor's experience is thus far, especially if they're doing aligners. Their experience can be very different to another doctor who's done aligners, or maybe hasn't done aligners, or has done brackets, right? This conversation is usually the one I spend the most time on in my introductory meetings with customers. So what I would suggest is anybody who kind of gets it, but they're kind of still, I'm not really sure how that's going to work, be more than happy to schedule some time with them so I can really understand their experience and we can talk about it in that context.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. So basically the question is, how do aligners work? Your answer is, like, it's a big conversation based on your perspective. Let's have that conversation.
For sure.
And then, yeah, so we're obviously confident that we can do this without the attachments and without the buttons. And we just need to make sure that the doctor in the office is confident as well. And we'll address that when that comes up.
For sure. And another big thing is too, going back to the conversation I was having with our team there last week, and this was something, again, that really resonated with me, and I thought I would share it on here knowing we were doing this, is the orthodontist we were speaking with, he made a really good point. An orthodontic treatment is a prescription. When you're moving teeth, that is a prescription. It's a prescription of something to get to an end goal. So he put it in the context of, say, a medical prescription. Say you have, I don't know, high blood pressure or something like that, right? And you need to take medication every day, right? Certain amount of times a day. So that stays in check, or you get better, or whatever the case may be. But you're getting a prescription for something, and the instructions say you need to take this twice a day, 5 days a week, whatever the situation may be. Very similar concept with ortho, and I think it was something we touched on very quickly on our first call, but I wanted to bring that part back in, is the prescription for clear aligners is you got to wear this 22 hours a day, 7 days a week. And one of the hardest things with aligners is patient compliance, right? And again, making sure they're wearing that for the duration of treatment and for the amount of time they're supposed to every single day. Because one of the questions I usually get from a lot of offices after we talk about the attachments conversation is, well, what happens if mid-treatment it's not working? What do I do, right? Excuse me. So what I always say to them is I really want to talk to them about the patient compliance piece, making sure that the patient knows what the expectations are. If they're not going to wear the aligners for the allotted period of time, attachment or not, their teeth aren't going to get straightened, right? That's a bit of a different perspective. So I thought I would share that because, again, I think it's really important about how we educate our practices and how they educate their customers on what this is going to look like for them from, start to finish, essentially.
No, I think that's a great point, and it needs to be addressed because it is a very important point, not just only for the success that the clinic has, but the success that the patient has, and yeah, like some people who are not going to comply with the prescription, like you say, aren't going to get the results, and that
Right.
patient needs to understand what they're responsible for in this treatment too. So no, I think that's well said.
Absolutely. So moving on, and again, I think with everything, right, the proof's kind of in the pudding. So I just wanted to show a couple of images here of some cases we have treated, right? And if you can see at the bottom here, it does say no attachments, no interproximal reduction, so they don't have to take an interproximal strip and strip down some enamel. In our cases, they do have some flexibility where they can choose to do that. They don't want to do that, again, based on the doctor's clinical judgment. And we didn't need any revisions at the end in this treatment as well. So that's a big thing with, especially with aligner treatment and going back to patient compliance is, imagine you were this patient, Bob, and you had aligners for a year. It's saying 12 months there. And that's what you were told by your dentist say. You have to wear these for a year and your teeth are going to be straight. What would be your thought if you had to go back in after a year and your teeth weren't straight and then you found out you're going to need another 4 or 5 trays, so call it another couple months, right? As a patient, how would that sit with you, knowing you would have to then extend your treatment?
Well, no one wants that. So of course I'd be upset with it and disappointed with it. I guess it comes down to also, I think, and maybe you're getting to this point too, like, again, we talked about the patient's compliance, like what responsibility do they have in it? So I guess, was it a failure on the treatment side where the treatment wasn't possible, or was it possible in that timeline? Or was it a compliance issue where the patient just didn't wear the liners the way they were supposed to?
For sure. And it could be multiple things. I think it comes down to 2. The first one, like you said, is the patient compliant piece, which we already kind of touched on. And the other thing, kind of going back to your 3D printing analogy there with those striations, right? It's making that little micro gap. Also think of where you have an attachment on a tooth, right? That's a gap between the physical aligner and the actual tooth, right? There is some space there. So with our technology and the way we manufacture, we're getting a full-on intimate fit aligner directly to the tooth. So we're able to do a much more controlled, predictable movement along the way, where at the end of treatment, our goal is that we're in that perfect final stage. If the patient's not going to wear them again, not to go back to a thing we've already spoken about, they're probably not, and we may need to do a revision as well. But I think it's something important is, making sure at the end of treatment, the patient knows what those expectations are. So just a few more images here, and then we'll touch on the subject that I think I'm the most passionate about in terms of everything Reveal has to offer to a practice. Again, a 7-month treatment here, just an overjet case, and then a little bit more of an advanced crowding case, obviously in the lower anterior here. And this was done in under 30 aligners without attachments as well.
Wow.
So I want to shift gears and talk about practice growth is the term we have on, our literature. But I think, like I said at the beginning, we could phrase it practice recovery. We could phrase it revenue recovery. There's lots of terms we could put in there that I think now more than ever, and again, I'm watching a little bit of the news, and I know Ontario, we're breaking records every day with cases. I think Alberta is in a similar, segment in terms of the pandemic. Everybody's already had a tough year as it is. And I think, providing a solution to practices who maybe aren't doing aligners today, a simple way for them to get into that, to generate some new revenue, to help that recovery process. That's the part where I know, as a sales rep, but as just a person, right? Like, that's where we're really making an impact, right? We're really helping our practices do that. So I wanted to touch on 2 of the biggest barriers to entry for a new practice, or possibly a practice that's doing, the odd aligner case here and there, but really don't have it incorporated as a main focal point of their practice. So The first one is patient acceptance rate. So, Bob, I don't want to put you on the spot again here, but I've been having a little bit of fun doing this. So, what would you say, and this is a North American statistic, what would you say the average case acceptance is for an aligner treatment in a general practice?
I'm going to say 20%.
Okay.
Pure guess.
It's a little
Pure
bit
guess.
higher. Nope, you know what? That was pretty close. It's around 30, 35%, I would say, is the average, based on the analytics that we've looked at. And when you think of an orthodontist, what do you think the case acceptance is in an ortho practice, in a specialist practice?
For clear aligners?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I'll double it. I'm going to, well, okay. So say 50, even 50.
Okay. You're a little bit low on that one as well. They're actually upwards closer to about 70, 75%, depending on the practice. The 50%, though, is a good guess for my third question, so I'll give you a bit of a hint there. Our acceptance rate so far in Canada with Reveal is about 55% right now.
Wow,
so out of
okay.
all the cases that have been submitted by our offices, 55% of them have moved forward with treatment, right? So we're ahead of that general average, which is great. So this is, something that is, sometimes hard for some offices to grasp, getting the patient to say yes. And, as we talked about earlier on the first call we had, there's a lot of competition in this space. There's a lot of different suppliers and companies that are coming out with aligners. There's the direct-to-consumer models that there's more of those coming out every day. There's local labs that are offering this as well. So from the supply side, there's a lot of competition, right? But think about that on the dentist side as well, right? The office across or down the street is probably offering aligners. The orthodontist is obviously offering aligners. And so is, the smile shops of the world, right? The smile direct-to-consumer models. So there's a lot of competition for the dentist in terms of that treatment as well. So one of the things I wanted to touch on here was something we did. We just launched it back in September, is for any Reveal patient who says yes, they actually will receive, in addition to their aligners and their retainer and their treatment, a free power brush from Oral-B as well. So they just launched their IO8 power brush. So that patient, alongside, like I said, their aligners, will also get a free power brush. So from, the perceived value of the patient, right? If you were to walk into Walmart or Shoppers Drug Mart or what have you, I think those range, there's different models of them, obviously, but, $300 to $400, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a
Yep.
value add to try to get the patient to say yes, where you can maybe differentiate yourself a little bit.
Okay, no, absolutely. That definitely should help.
Mm-hmm. And the final one here is the one that I think I'm going to enjoy the most talking about, because this is a cool story, and I wanted to share it with you and your group. So one of the things one of my first questions to offices when I start my conversations with them is, how many aligners are you doing today, and how are you targeting aligner patients? The answer I get majority of the time, well, the patients are coming in asking for it. So they come in, they ask, and I give them a treatment, right? So about 90% of the offices we surveyed when we got into this said they wanted to grow their aligner business, but only around 30, probably less than 30% of them are actively or proactively bringing up aligners with their patient base. So Bob, a question for you, I'm interested to see your perspective on this, is why do you think there's such a gap? 90% say, yes, I want to do more, but only 30% are actively talking about it in the practice.
Well, I think it's, dentists walk an interesting line where they are healthcare providers and they're there to treat patients, but they're also running a business. And there is some concern that some doctors have about appearing too business oriented, and they don't want to outwardly sell patients on treatment. They want to prescribe and take care. And so I think that's the issue.
Absolutely. You couldn't have, you got that one 100%, that answer. That one was,
right,
perfect.
redemption.
So, yeah. So that's exactly it, and that's the comment I hear from offices all the time. I don't want to feel like I'm selling something to my patients, and, absolutely understand that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here just so the camera gets a little bit better. So one of the things we try to educate our practices is having a little bit more of a proactive conversation when it comes to aligners. I'm not sure if you remember from the first presentation we did and for your customer base, but we talked about the 2 million Google searches a month for clear aligners and the demand and the growth of this market, right? You know, the demand is there. This is something patients are actively thinking about, but maybe they're not verbalizing it to you, right? They've seen some of these social media ads, they're not talking about it, and you don't know. So I'm going to show you this, and I'm not sure, I hope you can see that okay. So this is a little pin. And as much as I would love to take credit for this idea and the design of this pin, I definitely cannot. And neither can Henry Schein for that matter. It's ironic. So when we launched in the US, one of our first offices that came on board had the exact same thing that we just talked about. I don't want to sell to my patients. I don't know how to bring this up, you know, organically. You know, I don't want to be too pushy. So a couple of the hygienists at that practice went out and made these buttons. And they were blown away because all they did was they pinned it on their shirt. And again, when they were, you know, patient was in the chair, patient looked up and said, oh, what's Reveal, right? You know, maybe they've heard of some of the competitive products on the market,
right,
but they haven't heard about Reveal, right? So now what I always educate my practices to do is now they've asked, so now it's an organic conversation. You can really have that full oral health conversation about some of the risks of going into some of these direct-to-consumer aligner therapies. So I always say, you know, to the offices that I'm coaching on this is, your first question after that is, oh, like, have you been thinking of doing this treatment? And a lot of the times their answer is, yeah, I saw an Instagram ad for something, and, you know, I was an ortho patient as a kid. I had braces. I didn't wear my retainer. I've relapsed. I don't want to spend another X number of dollars on traditional ortho. I want something quick and easy and cost effective, right? So now whether it's the dentist, the hygienist, the assistant, somebody at the office, doesn't matter, can now say, look, we have a great cost-effective alternative for you. Here's the risks about going to some of those, you know, Instagram or Facebook ad companies, right? And now you can really turn that from a sales pitch to just being educational. And it's worked wonders for us. So it's something that I like to tell that story because I think it's impactful. It's very simple. Like I said, I wish I could take credit for this, but I can't. So, you know, that's the part for me that I think, you know, I really help enjoying practices see the value that they can bring in at the end of the day with something like this.
So I got to ask, because I know I'm going to be asked this question, those buttons, like, do we have those buttons? How do we get those buttons?
Yeah, so if we have an office who comes on board with us and is doing some cases, we can definitely get them some buttons. I have some here, and we actually had them at PDC, which I know was where we kind of started our conversation last time,
right.
But we can definitely do that for sure.
The good old days back when PDC, before all this started.
Yeah. So
no, very cool. And yeah, I think again, I like the idea. I like the idea of expanding care of a clinic. I like the idea of bringing in new sources of revenue for a business. And again, I think this is a great system. Again, like we talked about last time, like this is not new to Henry Schein. Like we've got thousands of cases that were done in the US. So even though this is new to Henry Schein Canada and new to our Canadian dentists, again, we've got the track record as a company that this is a vetted and a well-tuned machine and well-tuned service. So that's isn't really that risk that would have been there a year or two ago when this thing first launched in the US. So that's people at ease. And then again, I'll put the link and stuff into the email below, but the website it's DDX Dental. Is that the website again?
Yeah, that's the software. So, that's the software that we use that our Reveal lab is set up on. So again, we have a quick start guide. It is a fairly lengthy document. I think it's 17 pages. It's a PDF, but it's a lot of images and it's pretty thorough. Like it's actually really straightforward. It's just the images are quite large, so it makes the document longer.
Right.
The first 3 pages of the document is how you sign up, how you activate your practice, how you add the lab. And my recommendation to any office that is interested is this: whether you have a patient in mind, or we actually have a really good promotion for a team member. If there's somebody at the practice who's interested in treatment, like I said, hygienist assistant, office staff, doctor, doesn't matter. For their first case, we do have a really cool promotion for that. And what I suggest to an office, scanner, traditional impression, same recommendation is, take a scan or an impression, take the photos you need, submit the case, see the treatment plan. Now you've seen the whole process basically from start to finish until we obviously manufacture the aligners. And now you can really make an informed decision. And the nice thing about it is that doesn't cost you anything up front, right? So you can really go through the full motion there to see if it's a good fit for you. You know, like any product out there that anybody sells in any industry, not every product is perfect for every customer or practice. But at least you can do your due diligence to know if this is the right fit for you.
That sounds great. Yeah, like obviously, go through the whole process. Basically, go 99.9% of the way there. No cost. All you have to do at that point is hit submit, and then obviously the account is billed. But no, that sounds like a great way to just kind of walk through. And then onboarding and signing up on the DDX website is very easy. Basically, just like first name, last name, email address, and like your Henry Schein account number, which is again listed on every single invoice you guys have. So that's an easy process to get going too. We really do have. We really have made this as simple as possible for a practice to check out. That's exciting.
For sure.
And this is just, this has been great. Like I think this was the clear next step for our second conversation on Reveal. And maybe there's going to be a third, maybe a fourth, who knows, just as we grow with this and get more detailed and more people are using it. And I think we've been doing this conversation as kind of long enough. Is there anything else that we need to kind of touch base before we sign off?
No, I don't think so, Bob. Again, thank you for the time. I think, like you said, it was a nice segue from the first one and this after the response we got from some of your clients, which was great. So, obviously some of those questions, come up over and over, the buttons and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was a great segue into doing this. And again, if there is something else that, we're getting a lot of questions on, we'll be more than happy to set something else up for sure.
Yeah, you bet. And so again, for everyone that's watching this, in the email below, I will include Chris's contact information again. I will include a link to the video that we showed. I'll include another link to some other video and some PDF documents as well. Any questions, please reach out to me, reach out to Chris directly, and we're happy to help. And yeah, this is, again, an exciting time. It's something new, and I'm looking forward to having this grow, and we'll go from there. So, hey, Chris, thanks a lot for your time, man. Looking forward to catching up with you again sometime soon. Good luck on the house hunting, and we'll talk soon. Okay, pal?
All right, man. No, thank you again, and stay warm as the snow starts to fall.
Yes, you better get the skis shined up. Grab a sticky juicy fruit.
Yeah.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Take care. Ciao.